Good day, everyone. I am Jamaica Sumaya Labrador from BSED English 1B, and I will be assigned to discuss cognitivism. Cognitivism is a theoretical framework for understanding the mind that gained popularity in the 1950s. It was response to behaviorism's sole emphasis on observable outward behavior about emphasizing emphasizing cognition. Cognitivism is less concerned with outward behaviors and more concerned with inner processes or inner mental activities to understand how people learn. The results of watching, touching, or experiencing are major points in cognitive learning. Cognitivism assumes that knowledge is stored as cognitive symbols or symbolic mental constructions known as schema. This time, I will be introducing to you the five cognitivists who has their different ideas about cognitivism. Cognitivists believe that even more important than than going through an experience is how people process their experience. This can lead to having very different behaviors from each other since each person has their own way of thinking. So the first cognitivist is Piaget's theory of cognitive development. John Piaget in 1936 to 1950 theory of cognitive development presents how a child creates a mental model of the world. He believes that cognitive intelligence is not a fixed trait, but rather a process which occurs as a child's biological maturations and his or her interaction with the environment. Piaget focused on mental events, logical reasoning, and knowledge structure. He believed that children are active and motivated learners and that children are active processors of information. Piaget believes that children organize what they learn from experience. So there are four cognitive stages of John Piaget. The first one is sensory motor stage from 0 to 2 years. At this stage, the infant learns about the world using its senses: hearing, smell, sight, touch, and taste. This is why children at this age do not just look at things, but they also touch, smell, listen to, and taste them. Most of the time, putting things into their mouth. At this stage, they recognize people, texture, objects, sight, and emotion. By 4 months old, the infant becomes aware of things beyond its own body. Then later on, learns to do things intentionally. At about 8 months, the infant will realize that objects still exist even when hidden. This cognitive ability is called object permanence. Other cognitive abilities that would develop at this stage are self-recognition, deferred imitation, and representational play. And the third one, and the second one rather, and the second one is pre-operational stage from 2 to 7 years. By this stage, the toddler incorporates language in his or her understanding of the world. He or she acquires the ability to internally represent the world through language and mental imagery. At this stage, the child will have difficulties seeing other people's point of view. The child's thinking starts out as egocentric or centered on the child's own view of the world. The child also might think that some non-living things like toys can have life and feelings just like people. This is called animism. A child at this stage is able to use symbolic thought and language. Like the mother can be drawn bigger than the father because the child spends more time with the mother. The child loves to play pretend. Around around age 4, the child starts to ask so many questions. This can be called the birth of primitive reasoning. The third one is concrete operational stage from 7 to 11 years. At this stage, the child can process events and information as it is. However, he or she will not be able to accommodate abstract or hypothetical concept yet. She can solve concrete hands-on problems. He or she will understand laws of conservation. During this stage, the child will start to think logically about concrete events and will be able to classify and put things in a series. The reason that this stage is called concrete operational is because at this stage, the child can think logically and successfully if they can manipulate real materials or pictures. The fourth one is formal operational stage from 12 years and up. By this stage, the child would be able to perform thought processes like abstract thinking, being able to invention hypothetical scenarios, creating strategies, and looking through various perspectives. He or she will be able to solve abstract problems, think scientifically, and show concern for social issues. At this stage, the adolescent can follow an argument without having to think in terms of specific examples. She can also make assumptions about events that may not be real. He or she can now philosophize, thinking about thinking. Piaget believes in lifelong learning. He also believes that the formal operational stage is still the last stage of cognitive development. According to Piaget, knowledge cannot emerge only from sensory experiences without the necessary structure to make sense of the world. Piaget proposes that a child is born with a basic mental structure or genetically inherited on which all knowledge and learning are based. Piaget further explains that he believes the inborn reflexes of infants are genetically programmed neonatal schemas. Now let's proceed to second cognitivist, who is Jerome Bruner on 1915 to 2016. Like Piaget, Jerome Bruner says children have an innate capacity to learn, and that cognitive abilities develop through active interaction. However, Bruner considers that social factors have a greater influence on cognitive development, more than merely a biological maturation, especially with the use of language. Brunner introduced a three-step process where a child will learn best. The first one is inactive, the second one is iconic, and the third one is symbolic. Step 1, inactive representation. This happens during hands-on experiences. Is best when this is done with real applications. For example, when learning division to divide 4 by 2, two students learn how to cut a cake into 4 slices. So each can eat one now and bring home one later. Then step 2, iconic representation. We now link the memories of the lessons experienced to iconic pictures. Here, students are asked to draw a cake that was cut into 4 pieces, then divide among 2 students. Step 3, symbolic representation. We now use the images we internalized earlier and turn them into abstract language such as mathematics symbols. This last phase is also called language-based because we are actually just learning the appropriate symbols to express our thoughts. The actual math knowledge was acquired much much earlier through the hands-on experiences. Brunner believed that any subject can be taught in this systematic way to any child at any stage of development. Brunner is also in favor of discovery learning, where students apply their knowledge immediately. He believes that if students can apply new information to real material or real situation, their learning will be enhanced. In discovery learning, students' curiosity is exercised. Now, the third cognitivist is David Ausubel in 1918. Just like other cognitivists, David Ausubel believes that new learning relies on what the learner already knows. He agrees with Brunner in having learning materials that are meaningful to the learner, and that learning should not just be mechanical. Ausubel believes that information is not useful to learners if they cannot relate what they are learning to wider context. According to Ausubel, it is all about deeper learning. Ausubel believes learning should be well organized. That is why he advocates the use of advanced organizers. The advanced organizer is relatively short arrangement of introductory. It relies on relevant prior knowledge. There are 3 phases in using the advanced organizer. The phase 1, presentation of the advanced organizer. This phase has 3 steps. Step 1, clarify the aims of the lesson. Step 2, present the advanced organizer. Step 3, prompt awareness of relevant knowledge and experience. Then, phase 2, presentation of the learning task. In this phase, the present learning task is presented in a systematic order while discussing each aspect one by one with very interactive class discussion between the teacher and the students. Phase 3, strengthening of cognitive organization. This phase has 4 steps. Step 1, compare and contrast key points. Step 2, accurate reception. Step 3, elicit critical approach. And step 4, clarify. In using the advanced organizer model, the teacher is more active. Sometimes collaboration should be take place. If the teacher plays a major role in this setup, he or she is a facilitator. These teachers provides the learning experience and clarifies when students have questions. So this is the uh, opinion of David Alsobel about cognitivism. The fourth cognitivist is Robert Gagne in 1965. Robert Gagne is known for the science of instruction. His book, The Conditions of Learning, presented mental conditions needed for effective learning. He created a process with 9 steps of instruction that detailed each element needed. He theorized that there are 5 major categories of learning, which is verbal information, cognitive strategies, motor skills, intellectual skills, and attitudes. Gagne believes that various internal and external conditions are essential for each type of learning. He also believes that each type of learning requires different types of instruction. Gagne created a list of 9 instructional events that would guide teaching. The first one is gain attention, or to ensure reception of stimuli. Second, inform the learners of the objectives of the lesson, or to establish appropriate expectancies. Third, stimulate the recall of prior learning, or for retrieval from long-term memory. Fourth, present the stimulus or material to ensure selective perception. Provide learning guidance or by suitable semantic encoding. Sixth, elicit performance or responding. Seventh, provide feedback or about the performance or reinforcement or formative. Eighth, assess performance or additional response, feedback, additional response feedback, occasions or summative. 9. Enhance retention and transfer or arranging practice or generalization to aid future retrieval and transfer of learning. These events are implemented in various learning environments and ensure effective achievement of desired learning outcomes. Let's move on to the fifth cognitivist or the last cognitivist, which is Benjamin Bloom in 1956. Benjamin Bloom et al. Developed a classification of learning levels known as the Bloom's taxonomy. It is commonly used as a guide in education when writing objectives of a lesson, in creating presentations, in learning activities, or in creating assessment. Bloom believes that there are 3 main domains of learning. The first one is cognitive, which is the thinking. The second one is affective, which is the feeling. And the third one is psychomotor, which is the doing. Bloom's digital taxonomy: old, evaluation, synthesis, analysis, application, comprehension, knowledge. And Bloom's digital taxonomy or new digital taxonomy is create, evaluate, analyze, apply, understand, and remember. So that is the different ideas of cognitivist. Thank you for bearing with me and thank you for watching. I hope you understand my discussion.